Hello, and welcome back to the Crime Reel. For this week's true crime narration, we shall be looking at the story of Lonnie Kocontes Micki Kanesaki. Both Lonnie and Micki worked at the same Orange County law firm in 1991. Lonnie was an attorney and Micki was a paralegal. The pair soon began dating, and 4 years later, on 29th of November 1995, they got married. Micki suffered from severe arthritis, and as a result of this had to stop working in 1996. She started to focus on various investments in order to earn money. She spent the majority of her time at the couple's home in Ladera Ranch, California. In 2001, after 6 years of marriage, Lonnie filed for divorce. This was finalised the following year, and despite being divorced, the couple still lived together in the house, which they jointly owned. During this time, and unknown to Micki, Lonnie had become involved with another woman, Amy Gwen, who he had met on a dating website. With Lonnie and Micki trying to agree how to split their assets, and then Micki becoming aware that Lonnie had become involved with Amy, the relationship between Lonnie and Micki became increasingly hostile. Micki was arrested twice for domestic abuse and was ordered to attend a domestic abuse program. In July 2005, Lonnie and Amy married in Las Vegas and began living together in Orange County. After just 2 months of marriage, Lonnie filed for divorce. At around the same time, Lonnie also asked for the court to force Micki to sell the home which they jointly owned, as he wanted to split the profits from the property. Micki resisted this sale, as she argued that she was entitled to keep the house as she had been the one to pay off the mortgage. Unable to reach an agreement with regards to the sale, Lonnie moved back into their joint home. Surprisingly, the relationship between the pair appeared to be improving, and they made plans to go on a holiday together. Before doing so, both Micki and Lonnie updated their wills and made each other the executors of their estates. The pair booked to go on a European cruise, and despite the cruise being on an economy cruise ship, this was seen as quite an unusual thing for Lonnie to do, as he was notoriously careful with his money. The cruise ship, called Island Escape, was relatively basic, having been converted from a ferry boat. Lonnie planned the trip to the finest detail, insisting upon travelling on that particular ship in a specific room with a balcony. On the 21st of May 2006, the couple flew from the US to Spain, where they boarded their cruise ship, which was headed to Italy. 4 days later, on the 25th of May, they went on a daytime excursion into the town of Messina. After having dinner and sharing a bottle of wine, they went to a show and then spent some time in the ship's casino. They then returned to their cabin to get a good night's sleep before their planned visit to the city of Pompeii the following day. The next morning, when Lonnie awoke, Micki was nowhere to be seen. At 6 a.m. he notified the crew that he could not find her. After a detailed search of the ship, it was determined that Micki was missing. The ship then made an unscheduled stop in the port at Naples, where the Italian authorities boarded. Lonnie was interviewed, and he confirmed that the previous evening the couple had returned to their cabin at around 11 p.m. Lonnie said that Micki had left their cabin an hour or so afterwards to get a cup of tea, and that he had taken a sleeping pill to assist with the jet lag from which he was still suffering. When he awoke at 6 a.m, he was surprised that Micki was not in their cabin. He also confirmed that Micki had been suffering from depression and had often talked about not wanting to live anymore. However, he also stated that the two of them were currently in a very happy place, having recently reconciled, and were even planning to remarry on their wedding anniversary in November that year. The Italian authorities saw no suggestion of foul play. They helped Lonnie to find accommodation in Naples, where he remained for just one night. On the morning of the 27th of May, just 24 hours after Micki's disappearance, Lonnie flew back to California claiming that he wasn't getting any answers about the disappearance from the Italian authorities and that he was struggling with the language difference. That afternoon, whilst Lonnie was still on the flight back to the US, 48-year-old Micki's body washed up off the coast of Paola in Italy. It was soon established that Micki had neither fallen or jumped overboard. She had been murdered. The autopsy revealed that Micki had suffered injuries to the base of her neck from a violent action that was continued for a period of time, as well as a blunt force injury to her head. The injury was caused by something with a convex surface, such as a bottle of wine. Due to the fact that she was dead by the time that she hit the water, she wouldn't have been breathing, which meant that her lungs were full of air, not water, and as such she floated, and miraculously her body was then discovered. The FBI had their suspicions as to Lonnie's involvement in Micki's death from the start, but were unable to prove that it was Lonnie who had killed her. On the day of Micki's death, when Lonnie returned to the US, he did not go back to the home which he shared with Micki in Ladera Ranch. Instead, he returned to live with Amy and resumed his relationship with her. Lonnie simply got on with his life. It wasn't until 2 years later, in 2008, when Lonnie began transferring large sums of money between his accounts, that the suspicions of the FBI were raised still further. They began investigating the money transfers for possible illegal activity and ultimately seized the money. Amy also went to the authorities to inform them that Lonnie had told her that he had asked a friend to kill his ex-wife. Additionally, a former friend of Lonnie also reported that Lonnie had spent a great deal of time looking into the security and CCTV systems on cruise ships prior to his trip. On 15th of February 2013, more than 6 years after Micki's death, Lonnie was arrested at his new home in Safety Harbor, Florida. He was charged with 1 count of murder for financial gain. Lonnie was extradited back to California to face the charges. However, the trial was delayed for years as the legalities of the various locations involved were ironed out. It needed to be determined whether Orange County could try Lonnie for a killing that took place in international waters. It was established that the murder had been meticulously planned before the cruise had even been booked, and as this planning had taken place in California, Orange County had the right to bring Lonnie to justice. After extensive delays and a mistrial, the trial finally got underway in February 2020. The trial was subject to yet more interruptions due to the COVID-19 pandemic. At the trial, Lonnie maintained his innocence, stating that he loved Micki and had helped her manage her depression and would never hurt her. His defence team claimed that she fell from the ship, either accidentally or intentionally, and the injuries which she sustained, included a broken neck, were as a result of that fall. The prosecution, however, brought in the testimony of the Italian doctor who had conducted the autopsy, Dr. Pietrantonio Ricci, who stated that Micki's injuries were caused by prolonged violent action, not from the fall. The defence also provided evidence that Lonnie had attempted to get 2 men to force his ex-wife Amy to sign a letter stating that the police had made her lie about Lonnie's involvement in Micki's death, and then once the letter was signed, they would kill her. After 14 years, in June 2020, the jury deliberated for just an hour before Lonnie was convicted of first-degree murder. On 18th of September 2020, 62-year-old Lonnie was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. That concludes today's story. Thanks very much for listening, and please add any comments down below. And now it's time for Petty Crime. Today we just nip over to Sweden and visit Gitt, spelt G-I-T-T. She has Tilda and Molly. Their main crime is that they hunt and catch mice. One time Molly was, shall we say, poorly on the bed cover. Tilda loves to play with children. Okay, next we have Spooky Baby 13 from Cornwall, the land of the Cornish pasty. First up we have Betty and Broccoli. Broccoli is the one that looks like broccoli. Then we have the rats, Bear and Moose. You cannot leave any food lying around with them two, because they will steal it. Moose is the one that looks like a moose. Then we have Isla and Harvey, and they are both cuddly and cute. And then next we have Bob and Archie, who are known as the Mitchell brothers. If you're into your TV soaps, you'll get that one. And then just to make the zoo complete, we have Sonny, the Chihuahua. He adores his mum and is a great companion and support to Spooky Baby 13. And then finally we travel to Essex, also in England, to see Julie, who has sent in Rosie the Whippet, who is 11 and loves this doll very much. And then finally we have Wally, who also has a great teddy collection. They are both rescue dogs. Great work, Julie. Thanks for that. Thanks for sending the pictures in. Thanks very much for listening to the Crime Reel. Stay safe. Goodbye. Psst. On the cruise ship featured today, The Island Escape, that actually featured in a 10-part documentary made by ITV called Cruise Ship. Goodbye.